All right, let's buckle up. Let's get going. Friday afternoon. FSU Spaces. Here we are. Big game tomorrow. Florida State goes on the road and takes on Syracuse in what could be one of the bigger games in Mike Norvell's career. We'll talk about that. We'll make fun of Miami's recruiting class, which is maybe starting to crumble. We got the reports that, everybody was locked in. Didn't matter what the record was. And now you've seen a big flip happen and rumors swirling that we may get another one. Maybe we're going shopping off of that commit list here in the next few days. Also, some concern around an offensive lineman committed to FSU visiting the Swamp this weekend. So really, whatever you guys want to talk about, I'll kind of share some thoughts on some of those things, and then we will get rolling. We're also doing a couple of giveaways with both Gramco and Garnet and Gold. If you are a vet, let's actually just get started now. If you're a vet, do me a favor and shoot me a DM. We're going to get you some gummy samples. First 10 people that shoot me a DM that are a veteran, or if you're close to a vet, like if your spouse or a family member is a vet and you'd like to maybe get them some samples, we're going to give some of that away. If you're on YouTube, you may have to shoot me a message here you may have to shoot me an email or something. So it's tj@doublefriesnoslaw.com. It'd be a good way for you to shoot that over. But yeah, we're also going to give away something from Garnet and Gold. I'll actually wait until a few more people get in here to try and share that. But appreciate you guys if you served, if you had a family member that served. Certainly appreciate that service. We'll get after it. First up, Jaden Rashada decommits from Miami, flips at midnight. Certainly interesting to see Miami's class and how that will turn out over the next few weeks. And I saw some tweets that didn't have anything to do with NIL. According to the people that I talked with before the flip happened, it sounds like some commitments may not have been honored in the NIL world down there in South Florida. And so I do, and then you also have, the UF mega booster, Hugh Hathcock tweeting, "Good day for UF coming up." So to think that didn't have anything to do with NIL is a little bit silly, but you'd rather him gone to not a rival. But when bad things happen to UF, I'm going to laugh. When bad things happen to Miami, I'm going to laugh. If a good thing benefits one of those two as part of that situation, it just kind of is what it is. So not necessarily happy that UF picked up a big commit, but certainly fine with Miami sort of crumbling. UF can certainly thank FSU for the beatdown on Saturday that has led to this. So interesting to see there. Interesting. Shout out Crow, my man. Interesting to see what will continue to happen. Some smoke around, and this has been out there, so I don't mind saying it, but some smoke around Florida State potentially going after and being in contact with oh man. Can y'all hear me? I actually just got a call. Y'all wouldn't believe who just called me if I told you. I would pick this up under any other. Can you guys hear me? I would pick this up under any other circumstance. But oh shoot, the YouTube people are gonna know. But yeah, I can't. I'm gonna send a message. Give me just a minute. I gotta send that person a message. On a show, call you in a few. Yeah, I can't believe I just ignored that person's call. Some of you, I'll tell who that was. Most of you, I won't though. I'm all off track now. Let's see here. Yeah, some smoke around Emory Williams. We'll just say it. We'll just say what's going. Smoke around Emory Williams, Miami's other quarterback commit. I would expect that they put kind of the full court pressure on to keep him, but I know that that's a recruit that Florida State has continued to be in contact with, and one that I've been told whenever Florida State is ready to pull the trigger, that would be a commit that I believe they could pull fairly easily. Miami may have some funds reallocated now and may have some opportunities to sway him a little bit more than they did before. But certainly one to keep a watch on. And then we have the Lucas Simmons situation, which I think is interesting. I do think that that would be. I mean, that wouldn't be good, right? If he was to flip to Florida, I think that right now the folks that I've talked with on Lucas Simmons specifically have said that they are very aware of that visit. Simmons gave them a heads up on that a long time ago when that got scheduled. The Florida folks that I've chatted with, though, feel somewhat confident. And so I don't think it's a Kearney situation, but I do think that it is certainly something to keep an eye on. It could turn into a situation that's not great for Florida State. I've been told that Florida is going after a couple of other offensive line recruits. I think it would be better for FSU if Florida did get those guys. I don't think it would be great for FSU if they whiffed, because then I think they'd kind of put the full court press on Simmons, and they're hot right now. They're hot on the trail. So, can't really deny that. Can't really take that away from them. They're doing really, really good things on the recruiting trail. And so, yeah, it would be great if Florida hit on some of those other guys and we didn't have to stress out all the way until signing day. It's an unofficial visit. He is going with some teammates and also going with some coaches that are currently on his that are on his part of his organization, his team now. Sorry, I don't know why I can't think. And so that's good. I've been told that not to read too much into that, though. Like, this is an actual visit. He is coming to Tallahassee in 2 weeks. He is going to be at the Florida State game. But I think, what December holds will be very important there. He's already used all 5 official visits, so nobody has like that wild card to use on Simmons. But I do think that what you see him do, the moves you see him make in December, if he was to end up, in Gainesville the last weekend before early signing day, or if he was to be in Tallahassee the last weekend before signing day, follow the visits, right? It is what it is. So a long way to go in that one. I don't know that I'm necessarily like freaking out about that one just yet, but I do think it's one to keep an eye on, kind of see what happens. I've been told that FSU may or may not try and persuade him to not take that visit, but we'll kind of see how that goes and how that ends up over the next week or so. We've got a good number in here. If you're in here, do me a favor, hit the share button. Certainly would appreciate that. Again, I've gotten a few DMs from you guys. If you are a vet, or if you're, again, really, really close to a vet, potentially like a spouse, a family member, do me a favor, shoot me a DM. We're going to get you guys some Gramco samples, some gummy samples. I do want to tell you guys a quick story. David, their founder, their owner, founded Gramco. Part of the reason was because he got hurt in the Army, saw a lot of his injured friends getting prescribed opioids. He had a friend who gave him some cannabis for his foot injury. When he got out, he went to law school at Florida State and was laser focused on the cannabis industry, helped write some of the hemp legislation for the state of Florida when he was at FSU. I've talked with a number of people, and I know Gramco has talked with even more about the fact that a lot of people use Delta-8 or use different cannabis to get off of opioids and not use those. If you know somebody, I've actually literally had people that I work with ask me about Gramco for that very reason. They've got family members that are on opioids. And so I know that we joke and we make jokes about the gummies and, that take sounds like you were on 10 gummy. There's fun to be had in everything, but they really do serious good work. And if you know somebody who's potentially affected by that, really, really appreciate the work that Gramco does. Really, really proud to work with them. And, if you are a vet, again, if you want to try the gummies, if you want to try and get some gummies for a friend, first 10 people to DM me, we'll hook you up. Appreciate your service. If you're a vet and you would like to win a camo hat, a garnet and gold camo FSU hat. We're going to give one of those away too. So if you're a vet, again, shoot me a DM one way or the other. Give me a gold Noles or something, and we'll enter some names and make sure we get you a hat. We'll give away some gummies. Really appreciate what you guys do. Nothing is needed. You don't need to go do anything or order anything. We really just want to kind of give back and take care of you guys. So if you're on the YouTube, you can shoot me an email. Again, it's tj@doublefriesnoslaw.com, or you can hop on over to Twitter and shoot me a message, or just, whatever's easiest. You can comment here, and then comment your email or something, and I'll get in touch with you. There's no real way to message over there. So appreciate Gramco, appreciate Garnet and Gold for all that they do, giving back. They've done a great job of that ever since I've been working with them on the spaces, and so certainly appreciate them. If you're ordering from Gramco, thegramco.com, TJ25 will save you 25%. If you're ordering from Garnet and Gold, it's garnetandgold.com. Spaces 15 will save you 15% there. And anybody that orders during the show from Garnet and Gold will be entered to win a hat as well. So, all right, let's keep it rolling. Let's go to some of you guys, see what you think. Oh, I want to talk a little bit about the Syracuse game, but let's get Joshua on here. I've talked enough. So let's get Joshua on, and then I'll talk a little bit about the Syracuse game. Huge game this weekend.
Yeah, man, it's a huge game. I was actually kind of a little sad this morning because I just realized we only have 3 games left, maybe 4.
Yeah.
The season just feels like
no, not maybe 4, bro. We're bowl eligible. It ain't maybe.
I mean, yeah, okay, sorry, but maybe one on New Year's even. I don't know. Let's go.
Let's go.
But just the fact that, I mean, I'm sure everybody goes to this every year where you kind of blink and you're like, oh shit, the season's almost over.
Yeah.
It's just like you wait for it for 8 or 9 months, and then it's here. We're all excited. It's like, damn, we got Syracuse, Louisiana, and then Florida, and then we got our bowl game. It's just nuts. But yeah, super looking forward to this weekend. Can't wait. It's one of those things. Last week there's always that little apprehension because it was a rival, but I think everybody felt really confident. I think we feel extremely confident, and especially if Shrader's 50-50 or not at full strength. But it just feels like just keep our ears pinned up. I don't want it to get lackadaisical after a huge win, then knowing got Louisiana next week, which is, obviously should be an easy one. I just really want to hope everybody's focused for this win. And then obviously we know what's happening a couple weeks after that too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a massive opportunity. What you do with this win is you nearly guarantee yourself, obviously anything could happen next week, but you guarantee yourself 8 wins if you win this game, right? And the opportunity for 10 is still there. So yeah, it's really, really big. And I think that, if Shrader plays, I'll say that, I think this was a massive opportunity for Mike to pick up a quality win. Now, I do think if he's pretty banged up and, plays like Van Dyke for a quarter and then, kind of goes out or something like that. I think that, that would not necessarily be a huge win or anything. Getting a win is always, impressive on the road in conference and stuff like that. But, if Shrader's there and pretty healthy, I mean, they were a good team and are a good team and have been since he's been there. And they've run into some trouble with, they played a Clemson team that's really, really good. They, have played a couple of games without Shrader. They played a good Notre Dame team who beat Clemson last week, right? And so they've lost to some good teams. They played a really physical Pitt team without Shrader. So, they're on their 3-game skid like we went through where they're playing good teams and playing banged up. And how do they come out of that, right? Now, if Shrader's out, they're going to come out of that poorly. I mean, that just is what it is. But if he's there and he's playing, I mean, this should be a pretty good game. Now, I do think the Noles are better. I think we're healthier than we've been all year. I really like where we're at in the running game. Syracuse also has some injuries across the offensive line. In the secondary, I like the way we're playing right now. So even if Shrader's 100%, I mean, I still like the Noles, but it's a massive opportunity. And we've been presented with massive opportunities over and over and over again. And can we continue to take advantage and kind of take the next step? I don't think, I'm not sitting here going to write a think piece if the Noles lose this weekend or if things go sideways. But I do think it'd be a lot like the NC State game where you missed a massive opportunity to take another step forward, right? At the end of the day, the expectations for the team were like 6-7 wins, right? Your over-under in Vegas was 6.5. Just because you outperform at the beginning, 6.5 wins at the end of the year is still 6.5 wins, right? And that's what your over-under was. And so if you were to lose this weekend and win the next 2 to get to 8, yeah, you'd look at the fact that you probably had an opportunity to be a little bit better. But yeah, if you win this weekend, you've accomplished a huge goal and one more. You finished above 500 in the conference for the first time since 2016. Yeah, I think that it can't be understated how big it would be to go on the road and win this game. I also think it's really good, and I love where the staff is at. Last year you had a really, really emotional win against Miami. And what did they do? They came out against BC and absolutely dominated. And I know BC made that close at the end, but I don't really worry about like a hangover game or oh man, they're still kind of looking backwards at Miami. I think it was great that you blew them out. That way it wasn't like so emotional at the end and, dramatic and come from behind or anything like that. Like you kind of blew them out and you knew it was over at halftime and you could just kind of start focusing on what's next. So how you feel? You feel like they go get the win?
Yeah, I definitely like it to win. I think it's just, recently we've had some struggles up there in a dome that's called the Carrier, which ironically enough doesn't have air conditioning. Being named after that. But I definitely think we're going to dominate. I think, one of the things that's been really glaring, and I've only watched pieces of it, but some of the analysis I was seeing at Syracuse is they've been gutted up the middle as far as in the running game. And with what have we been dominating on counter plays going up the middle or, just off tackle. So I think we have a great opportunity to, one, keep everybody healthy, just run it down their throat, get a lead. I think, whether Shrader's, 100% or not, which I can't see that he is, I think obviously it's stopping their running game, which having Fabian back has been a huge difference, obviously. So if we can stop their running game, they have an excellent running back, and then, really use our running game to do what we do and open up the passing game from that, I think we're going to be just fine. I honestly do.
I agree. Yeah. I like the Noles this weekend. I like them.
Yeah.
And if Shrader doesn't play, it kind of takes a lot of the anticipation or excitement out. But if he plays, I still like us by like 2 touchdowns. So
sure. I have a question for you though that it's kind of using your inside knowledge on. So with the Simmons situation, let's all just pump the brakes. I know as FSU fans, FSU Twitter, we cannot obviously do that ever just because not who we are. But these are 17, 18-year-old kids. They're obviously easier persuaded. Let's see what happens. But one thing I'm just trying to understand, I know that obviously they had a win against A&M, who is completely depleted. They've done pretty good. They have a decent offense. But what is it about Florida? Is it just NIL stuff? I mean, how are they recruiting so well with their DB room? I know they have pretty good facilities, but it's not like they've been blowing the roof off. Yeah, they made a couple when they had Mullen, they made some runs, but they've been up and down over the last 10 years as well. Maybe not as bad in some circumstances, but what is it that or what you think on why they're still able to grab so many kids?
Yeah. So I think it's a few things. One, I mean, they're a premier program in this country, right? I mean, Florida, I look at Florida and Florida State very similarly as, top 15 programs of all time, right? And people may or may not agree with that, whatever. If you think one team is way higher, way lower than the other, then, whatever. But, they both won the same number of national titles. For the last 30 years, they have about the same relevancy. They both won the same number of Heismans overall. Florida has a lot more overall wins, but, mostly due to just being around for longer. So I look at Florida and Florida State as like top 15-ish programs. Crow, I see. I'll get you on here in just a minute. And I think that Florida is being able to – so, when things are going well at Florida or Florida State, or there's excitement around a new coach, I mean, they should recruit well. They should do a good job. I do think Florida's NIL is better than it's represented at times. I also think that Napier does a really good job, and he's a good recruiter, and he was able to recruit Louisiana, though that's a much lower level, like to be a pretty respectable 10-win program and be really, really good. I also think that, the new coach smell is something that a lot of recruits buy in on and enjoy and like and stuff. And I think, Norvell kind of got gypped a little bit with that being a COVID year. I'm not saying that we would have been a top 10 class that year at all. But, I also think that they got to take advantage of a lot of early excitement with a huge win over Utah, where they had a bunch of kids out and a bunch of kids to see that They also had a lot of excitement around an LSU game that they didn't win, but they played in like down to the last second, night game, ton of excitement, ton of points. And so, yeah, I think they've capitalized on some really big moments. I think they've been strategic and done a good job of, getting a guy like Rashada, who, Miami's an absolute dumpster fire. So I think they've been strategic, and I think they've done a good job. I think it's going to have to come through with wins at the end of the day. I expect them to win, the next 2 games and get to 7-5, because I think they'll lose to us. If you go 7-5 in your first year, that's not bad, right? Like Florida State won 3 games, right? I'll also say this. Right now they have the number 8 recruiting class. Mullen's transition, not his transition class, but his first full year class finished number 9. So if Florida, if Florida like gets a few more guys and finishes like 5, that's really, really impressive. If they stay around 8, 9, 10, I mean, that's what Mullen did his first year too. So we'll see kind of what the long-term results are there.
Okay. No, that's super helpful. I think, I just look at it as, they haven't, they've had a good run, and they've obviously dipped off quite a bit. I definitely get the new coach smell. I understand from at least what I've seen, their facilities are pretty darn good in NIL, but it's not like they're blowing the roof off, right? I mean, there's obviously their defense looks terrible, to be honest. And then their offense goes as the QB goes. You can have a 4-interception day, or he can run for 100 yards and throw some deep balls and look good. So, it could be a situation where, they finish strong at the end, and obviously we play them. And if we can play to our capabilities, not saying it's going to be a Miami blowout, but if we can have a pretty comfortable win, that can hopefully sway some things on both sides. But I'm just trying to get my head around how some of these programs who, maybe they do have great tradition, but they've been down for quite a bit, and they have these excellent recruiting classes. Where does it come from? So that's really what I was getting at, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, it's all kind of it's all a piece of the puzzle, right? Like if they come out next year and win 6-7 games, right, then I think that there's no way they finish with another top class. But I think you can do it in your first year because there is a lot of excitement. They are a premier program. Their NIL game is strong. I think that when you kind of factor all that in, it's, when, Napier's a new coach, so you're able to kind of get a little bit more juice. People have asked, oh, well, we're playing better in the state than anybody. Why haven't we? Actually, I've gotten this question several times, so I'll just answer it. We're playing better in the state than anybody right now. Why aren't we leading for some of these recruits? And I think we talked about that earlier in the year, like April, May, when Newberg was on here. We were just saying like, hey, man, the 2023 class is kind of cooked. Like it is what it is. Like you just don't have the juice with those kids because of early signing day and everything else. You'd be, it just is what it is, right? Like they really needed to make inroads earlier, and right. Florida kind of got a little bit of a life support because of the fact that they hired a new coach. There's excitement there. Florida State had already kind of lost some of those big recruits in 23, and it just kind of is what it is. So we'll see, kind of how it all shakes out. But you just got to, you're right. Like you beat them by a couple of touchdowns at the end of the year, then we'll be fine.
Exactly. Well, cool, man. I don't want to take everybody's time. I'll leave it with this. I saw Crow on. It'd be good to see him come home. I know he's an excellent recruiter, excellent DB coach of whatever capacity. And, always good to bring some of the guys home. So if he has opportunity, we'd love to see that. But everybody else, have a great weekend. Enjoy some good cocktails. Be safe. Let's go on Saturday. Let's go and just beat the brakes off these. I don't know what they're called, the Orangemen. Come on, what the hell is that? It's the worst monster. Just fuck that. So, anyways, let's go put a stomping up north and then come back healthy and then get ready in a couple weeks. I mean, not going to take the next week for granted, but let's just do what we do. And yeah, man, go Noles forever. And everybody have a safe weekend.
Appreciate you, buddy. Oh man! Again, if you are a vet, do me a favor and Josh talked so much we didn't get Crow on here. Crow left. I'm gonna shoot him a message real quick. I'm just giving you a hard time, Josh. If you're a vet or close to a vet, shoot me a DM. I will. I'll make sure that I take care of you guys. Get you some samples. We'll also give away a free Garnet and Gold hat. If you're a vet here, listen on YouTube. You can just shoot me a comment, and I'll take care of you. We'll get you linked up and get you taken care of. So want to get you entered to win a hat from Garnet and Gold. Want to get you some free samples from Gramco. Appreciate you guys' service and all that you've done for our country. let's get Timo in here. I see you, George. We'll get you as well. Let's get after it, man. How you guys feeling? Timo, what's going on? Timo, you're on mute. Let me add George real quick. Timo might have lost connection there. I don't know. We'll see. I'm getting some of you guys the DMs. I'll reply to them all after the spaces, get you guys hooked up.
Oh, my bad. What's up, TJ?
You're good. George, go on mute real quick. I'm going to talk with Timo for a minute, and then I'll get you. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, I appreciate that, though, last week when I hit you up.
What happened last week, bro?
The promo code
yeah, my man. Did you get your gummies yet? What'd you get?
Yeah, bro. I got it. Appreciate it, man.
My man. How was it? How are they?
They good, man. I'll definitely be making another order. So.
My man. How you feeling, man? What we want to talk about today?
I'm good, man. I don't know, man. I don't think our staff is just getting it done on the recruiting chair. And that's me personally. I mean, I don't see why we're not doing good in recruiting right now. I mean, it's a tough topic, subject, but that's just truly how I feel. I don't think they're getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're not wrong. You know, as far as the standard of Florida State, they're not. You know, they're certainly, Florida State expects a top 10 class every year and top 5 a lot of years, right? So you're not wrong on that. You're not wrong that they should be doing better. At the end of the day, though, you've got to, I've not seen many coaches with, what did they have coming into this year? 8 wins over 2 years. I've not seen many coaches that are failing on the field out recruit their record to any kind of standard, right? And so I think
That's
that
true. It's been
I think you're.
Two, though. I think Texas definitely out recruited their record last year. I think did they finish in the top 10 class 2022?
2022 recruiting.
I want to say they did. It was Texas and another school too, if I'm not mistaken.
So,
both are kind of like in a similar situation as us, but they got it done. But I do believe that with NIL being new, I don't think that the higher ups at Florida State are willing to just go down that trend as paying these kids like reports of what they can been getting paid at other big schools. I just think we're reluctant to do that. Just trying to see how it's going to play out and see if these kids are going to continue to have that dog in them, are going to continue to work and try to get to the league. As most of these kids, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you paying a kid $5 million, $10 million, and they're 17, 18, fresh out of high school, and they go into cities like Miami, LA, like, is that kid going to have that dog in him? I think that's what Florida State higher ups and, our boosters willing to, they trying to wait and see. It's a waiting game. You're going to see. Because I don't think if you do give a kid that much money and he don't turns out, and most of the kids don't turn out to have that dog in them, don't turn out to have that fight in them like you want as you need to in games, that's kind of like a slap in the face to the boosters, the admin, everybody. You know what I mean? So I think they're just trying to kind of like wait and see. But,
yeah. Well, so I know that FSU's NIL efforts, I would call them, above average competitive, right? Like, you brought up Texas, like they're not on Texas's level and they're, as much as this sucks to say out loud, like they're probably not even on Miami's level right now, but they've been pretty competitive and they've landed some guys via NIL. I mean, just call it what it is. They've done, a fairly good job. I think at the end of the day, I think there was a lot of negative recruiting that happened toward FSU and toward FSU staff, where kids were being told like, "Hey, these coaches aren't even going to be around, right? Like don't go commit there. These coaches have won 3 games and 5 games over 2 years. Like they're going to win 5 or 6 games again this year and I'll get fired. So you don't want to commit there. I mean, as a coaching staff, you've got to overcome that. Like, you've got to do a good job of being better than that. But that's tough, right? And so I do think there is a little bit more certainty around this staff now that they are winning more games, and they've done a good job with some Band-Aid stuff over the, talent on the roster with the transfer portal. They've done a good job of developing guys. But I think it's just it's a slower process, right? And I think that all of the factors factor in, whether it be NIL not being as effective as we think it should be, whether it be, I think the staff needs to upgrade in some places. I'm not necessarily here to call coaches out or say this guy, but you guys know that where the deficiencies on the staff and on the roster have been, where you think regression from a coaching perspective needs to happen, that needs to improve. Florida State needs to win more games, right? Like, you've got to keep winning, right? And this year's done a good job of that. But I think it's all of those factors. You need better recruiters. You need better NIL. You need to keep winning. And if you do all of those things, you will be back and you'll figure it out, right? And so I think that, Florida's kind of got the shot in the arm of a new coach and excitement. But I'll tell you this, if Billy Napier goes, Anthony Richardson leaves and they go 6-6 next year, they're not pulling in a top 10 class. Like, come on, man. Like, he's kind of got the bump because it's the new year.
Yeah, that's true.
There's excitement, but like, nobody's out, like in your second year, you're not doing that. Like, come on. So I don't, there's excitement there for UF now, but if he doesn't capitalize on it with 8, 9, 10 wins next year, that class ain't going to look the same.
So, Tia, can I ask you this? I don't know if you know or not, but do you know if what's the actual date for next month on the groundbreaking for the new football facility?
I don't have a specific date on me. I know that that's been tossed around.
That's what I'm excited to hear about.
I actually
let's get this thing on the road.
Yeah, I actually have a call after this, and I'll try and see if I can nail down a date on that. But I just don't remember. Like, I know it's been tossed around, but yeah, I think all that stuff helps, right? Like, you've got more money coming in and flowing into the program, a new facility. I mean, that's the other thing, like, right? Like, they're taking these recruits. The recruits got to see a huge Utah game, got to see a sold out Kentucky game, which I know they lost, but also really, really good. I think that, then they're also seeing the new $100 million facility. We're a little behind on that, right? And so, yeah, I think that.
I think we're at where we need to be, though. Look at the bright side. We could be 5 more years behind for the facility instead of being 1 or 2 away. You know what I mean? And then we can also, the record cannot be what it is. It could be worse. So,
yeah.
I think we have a lot to be thankful of and a lot of positive to build on. But just recruiting this year, I don't see why we don't have a top 15 at least class. I mean, that's just my only knock. But everything else, the season has been great. I mean, Florida's trash. I keep telling people all the time, Miami is trash. Florida ain't good. So we should beat Florida at least 2 touchdowns as well. I'm looking forward to it, finishing the season good, and something to build on for the offseason. But other than that, go Noles, man. Y'all have a wonderful weekend as well.
Appreciate you, my man. Yeah, I mean, I do think we win the last weekend in November, but George, get in here. You can come off mute. But I do think, I think Florida's done a really good job. I mean, you've got to tip your cap to them. They've done a fantastic job this year. We're a good ways from signing day. What are we, 6 weeks away? So, let's see. I think 15 is probably about the cap for the class, just for the record. I think that I was talking with somebody yesterday, George, I'll say this and you jump on. But I was talking with somebody yesterday. Florida State's not in a position to take, I think their strategy in recruiting has changed a little bit. And I think that, you want to hit on as many impact guys as you can with your class. But I think that you are taking less of the 3-star developmental guys just as a general practice. And that hurts high school recruiting. Like, that does kind of suck because, less guys are getting an opportunity. But, I do think that instead of taking those 3-star developmental guys and kind of filling out your class with 25 players in the signing class, you're going after like 8 or 12 from the portal, right? And so we get really, really caught up and amped up about the signing class, which I do think is important, right? Like, I'm not saying that you can go all transfer portal and not signing class, but instead of taking 8 or 10 developmental guys, even low 4-stars aren't what they used to be, right? Like, it used to be just your like top 250 players were like 4 stars. Now it's like you've got guys in the 400s that are 4 stars. Those are like your high 3 stars that are used to be your developmental guys. Instead of getting those guys, like Florida State's going to the portal, and they've been successful. Now they need to do a better job at the top end of recruiting and getting more impact day one guys. Like last year, the only impact day one guys were Azariah Thomas and maybe Sam McCall, which, I don't think either of those have like been program changing or defining guys. I think Thomas will be really, really good, and McCall will be good if he stays here too. But that's what you need to pull more of those guys in. Well, if you pull a Baxter this year, a Hakeem Williams this year, you pull in like a Falk, those guys are going to play early, right? So I think that's, we get pretty amped up about the class, what the final ranking is, because, we want to troll on Twitter and say that we had a higher class. But we're just not going after as many guys at this point, right? I think that we'll do pretty well in the portal again, and that'll kind of supplement some of it. What's up, George?
What's going on, man? First of all, just thanks to all the veterans out there for kicking ass and taking names so we can sit here and talk about college football games, So
Absolutely.
Thanks to you guys, first thing. But as far as recruiting goes, I'm right there with you. Top 15 class, that's what I've envisioned and hoped for the whole year, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, we've been at, I think, between 16, 17 guys pretty much for 2 or 3 months, and they're just – these guys are not going to take just any old guy right now. We're seeing how far this momentum gets, who's going to be on the board, and I'm sure they've kept, in contact with Baxter and going after Wales and stuff like that. But just like you said, there's way too many guys, and Norvell – the word of the day is evaluation. When it comes to recruiting, recruiting is number one, as it always has been, but ever more, evaluation is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you can't take a 3-star and have him sit for 3 years hoping he develops, the Jimbo Fisher wide receiver special, when you can go straight into the portal and grab, Winston Wright Jr., a guy with 1,000 yards, this and that, as a sophomore, to come in and immediately be your slot guy, et cetera, et cetera. People just need to just calm down on the recruiting and where it is, because I'm right there with you. I know how frustrating it is, but the field, like you said, we were 3 wins, 5 wins, everybody's negative recruiting. All that stuff, all them guys have said, it's gone. They don't have that negative recruiting anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're kicking ass on the field when we're supposed to, being in games we're supposed to. If we can carry this win streak to the end of the year and do the same thing we did to Miami, even if not the same thing, if we can handle Florida and end the year on a streak like that, you're going to see flip season for the Noles too, believe me. But you're going to see maybe some guys drop off the bottom of the recruiting class and some, ESPN 300 guys take that spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Somebody sent me a DM and said that you must be a teacher if you said word of the day. I don't know if you're a teacher, but I laughed at that. But no, I mean, you're right. And this is what I love the most, right? So when I was younger, like I still really don't love following recruiting. I know that I kind of have to do it now that I'm doing this a ton, but I think that when you were younger, man, you just lived for the 3 months of college football, right? I didn't even really think about recruiting and stuff. And maybe I'm just different, right? Like maybe you guys have always been into it when you were like 7, 8 years old or whatever, but not me, man. It was the 12 games in the fall is all that mattered. And we are the best team in the state right now. We are going to beat both of our rivals this season. And all anybody wants to talk about is like, we could be doing this better. And I'm just like, no, y'all gotta, it's about the games that get played, right? Like I understand we need to recruit better. Like there's no doubt about that. Florida State, if they want to continue to win, has to recruit better. But I also think that you've got to enjoy what you've got going. Like we're winning games against rivals, and we're going to keep doing that. Mario will never outcoach Mike Norvell. Like never. He will never.
There's no way we ever get out-schemed.
Right. Now I'll say this. There is a point that if he continues to recruit top 5 or 6 classes and we recruit down in the low teens, that talent gap is going to be wide enough where I think it will make up for some of his coaching deficiencies. But that's got to happen for like 3 years, right? Like as long as that doesn't happen, so like if they go 4-8 this year and we go 8-4, the gap will close. And then if we do that again next year and they're not going to all of a sudden just whip us next year. We're going to win next year at home in Doak. And so like that gap's going to cut. So like I'm just not freaking out about 1 year, right? Florida's doing really
also just one proponent of recruiting at this stage. If you graded our transfer in with our high school recruits the past 2 years, what Mike Norvell has done has been nothing short of a miracle. What's he going to do this offseason and with that 24 class, with everything you just listed, being number one in the state, having the wins on the field, the bowl game, the 15 extra practices to develop the backups and get our freshmen and sophomores ready to go for next year. People, and this is just Twitter and Twitter spaces and diehards like us that freak out about it. But when Travis Hunter happened last year, my heart's turned to stone. I'll never get invested until signing date. Like, I just try to enjoy it.
I feel you. Tell that dog to chill out a little bit. I see him in your profile picture. Thank you, George, for coming on here.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir. I think at the beginning of the year we talked about this. Let me get some more of you guys on here. Let me get Brent. Let me get my guy Smoke, A1. Let's get some more folks in here. We talked about this at the beginning of the year. I think the 2023 class was pretty, I don't want to say cooked, because they could still do some really good things. If they could flip a Ruben Bain, or if they could get a Ruben Bain, if they could get Damari Brown, if they could get a Cedric Baxter, like any of those guys, you hold on to Simmons. They're still very active with Brock Glenn. I think they could flip Emory Williams at any time. This class is not over by any means. I'm not telling you guys to settle on, 17 or 18 based on which recruiting service you're looking at, On 3 or 247. But that's where I think they can get up to around 15 if they pull a guy or two from that list that we just mentioned. And then I think they'll use the portal effectively again. The problem with the portal, as we've talked about, is just that it is a Band-Aid. And a lot of times you only get those guys for 1 year, like Jared Verse, like Jermaine Johnson, like Kier Thomas. And so you've got to go out and do it again. But if they can recruit up around that 15-ish this year, go out and have another great year next year, they'll have a top 10 class next year. There are no doubts in my mind about it. Does it stink to be behind your rivals recruiting right now when you're better on the field? Absolutely. Am I ready to burn the place down over one season? Absolutely not. Both Florida and Miami are going to have about 50% roster turnover next year. Like, they are going to shed some weight, and we'll see how they do replenishing some of that. But you're going to have an opportunity next year to have just as good of, if not a better season than both of them anyway. And so I'm not flipping out over one season. A1, I lost you. Let me get Lowski on here, then I'll get Brent. We'll keep going for another 30 minutes or so. If you're on the YouTube, comment and let me know if you are a vet. Chad Harrison, thank you. Chad, shoot me an email, tj@doublefriesnoslaw.com. Pretty easy. That's a long email. I should just made it DFNS when I first did it, but doublefriesnoslaw.com. I'd love to hook you up with some Gramco samples. JROTC. I don't know if Junior, I don't know if that counts or not. But I don't know, man. I don't know what I can do for you there. Shoot me an email and we'll see. Lowski, what's going on? Well, Lowski might have got disconnected too. We'll try Brent. Maybe it's because I talk too much. Everybody's getting cut off. Army vet, serve 5. Yeah, shoot me an email, man. It's right above. We want to get you hooked up with some Gramco. Appreciate your service. Retired Air Force, D-Tops, appreciate your service, my man. Thank you very much. Yeah, DJ, I figured you were joking, but I just didn't know. Brent, what's going on, man? Brent, you're on mute.
What's going on?
There you are, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, great. Here's my thing, TJ. I think the most important recruiting Norvell needs to do is on the team and in the portal. Because if that offense comes back next year, and all the pundits are already talking that we may be the best team in the ACC right now, I think that, we have a great chance to win the ACC next year. And then may the chips fall where they may, could be even better. So, and then recruiting will take care of itself, I think, from then on. Would you agree? I mean, I'm not worried. I am not worried about Cristobal or Napier. I think that, this is what Florida wanted. They wanted that high recruiting. But, is it still going to pay off on the field? I don't know. think they're, I think Norvell's better than both of them.
Yeah, I think Norvell is a better game day coach, a better schematically than both of them. Yeah, like I don't have any doubts about that. I do think Napier does a really, really good job of his organizational piece. He's really, really good at recruiting. He's always been really good at recruiting. The question for him is going to be, can the results on the field happen fast enough for them to continue to buy in? That fan base and the folks around Gainesville are just absolutely unrealistic with expectations at times. And, I think that's the biggest thing is, can they get it going really, really positively fast enough? Now I'll tell you this, I think they win the next 2 games. And if they upset us to go to 8-4, then yeah, like they're going to do some special things, right? Like, so I think that, it kind of comes down to, well, how do they finish this year? If they were to lose to South Carolina tomorrow, which I don't expect, but they were to lose to South Carolina and then lose to us and they finish, what would that put them at, 6-6? Like, that's not good. Well, like that's kind of a letdown to the end of the year. I don't expect that. Like, hi Perry. But that's a possibility, I suppose. And so I think that
I think their defense is getting up to keep. If South Carolina can move the ball and get into the fourth quarter, I mean, their defense is pretty good.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I just think Florida's better, for what it's worth. Like, I think they're, I don't expect Florida to like blow them out by 30. I think they got kind of the advantage of a pretty banged up A&M team, but I do think they find a way to win. Right. And so if they win that, they'll beat Vandy and they'll finish it 7-5, 8-4. Like, that's not terrible. I do agree on Miami. Miami will recruit well for the next year or so, especially in the NIL era. But, yeah, I mean, they're never going to do anything on the field because they've just got terrible coaches. And, there's a reason that Cristobal's a 500 coach, over 130 games. It's not like he's a 500 coach at, his first year or something. Josh, appreciate your service. Shoot me an email just above there in the comments. But how you feeling this weekend, Brent? You think we get a win?
I'll tell you what, but after the way they played last week, I don't think there's going to be a letdown. I think defense and running game travels. I think Syracuse is really banged up, especially if we start off again. I mean, it could be a comfortable second half. I mean, right now, it feels like, barring anything terrible, as long as we are focused, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm with it. Yeah, no, I feel good about it. I feel good. I mean, what's the coach 30 or whatever, as long as you don't piss down your leg, as long as we don't do that, I think we should be fine.
Yeah.
So, Brent, I appreciate you, my man. I'm going to get some more callers before we get out of here.
Thank you.
Don't get me wrong, though. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so couple comments here. The transfers that are looking to sign elsewhere to shed weight are the same transfers we need, and they can set the price. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that, what Norvell has lacked on the what Norvell has lacked on the recruiting, landscape. I mean, he more than makes up with on the transfer portal. I think, if you're a top level defensive end looking to go somewhere, I don't know how you consider anywhere but Florida State right now. Really need that UF implode. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am certainly cheering for South Carolina tomorrow. I just don't think they win. So, all right, let's get Lowski on. Then we get John Baker on. I want to give a quick shout out again. If you're a vet, shoot me a DM and or a comment here on YouTube. Want to get you guys some free Gramco, get you entered to win a hat from Garnet and Gold. If you shop from Garnet and Gold today, while we're through the end of the day, use code SPACES15. We'll get you entered to win a free hat from Garnet and Gold. A military style hat, camo, good stuff there. And then the Gramco code, thegramco.com. They are vet owned, vet founded. Code is TJ25 to save 25% there. And then one more quick shout out. My guy, Paul Aloise Jr., played on the 2013 national championship team, works with Renegade Sports Entertainment. He represents Pokey Wilson, who had the game-winning touchdown catch a minute and a half into the game against Miami. Got to love that when you can get a game-winning touchdown that early. Expecting him to close the season really, really well. Love what Pokey's doing. Hey, they're opening a new office with their down in South Florida. My guy Paul's crushing it. represents a few guys that he's getting ready for the next year's draft class. And so excited for all that he's got going on with Renegade Sports Entertainment. Be safe this weekend, make good decisions, but if you do get in trouble, my guy Paul Aloise from Renegade Sports Entertainment will take care of you. Appreciate his support. Also love our national champion Noles. So shout out to Paul. Loski, what's going on, my man?
Yo, what's up, man? Thanks for taking me. Big game this week for us, coming off another big W. Excited about that. I'm heading up there to Cuse this week. I don't know if anyone else knows traveling up there this week. If so, hit me up on a DM. But a little bit of recruiting. I think it's kind of watch the hand, watch the other. I think it's kind of hurting us in a way that our defense is doing good because I think Fuller needs to go, even though we are doing decently this year on defense. I just don't think he's a good recruiter. I don't know enough. Maybe I'm not in the know. Maybe you know better than me, honestly. But I don't know if Fuller is attracting recruits enough, and I don't know about DP coach as well. That's really what I got. Go Noles, baby.
Woo! You bring that energy down on Friday. All right, I do still have some thoughts, and I don't think you're wrong. First of all, have a great time tomorrow. We were on yesterday. Richie, you're still in here. Do you remember what James told us that barbecue place was? It was like a barbecue place in Syracuse that he said you got to try if you go. So obviously we do the Double Fries podcast, so we like to ask people dinosaur barbecue. That was it. So if you like barbecue, man, go by and try that out. So
Thank you. Yep.
If you're going to Syracuse as well, hit up my guy Loski here on the top of the chat. Maybe you guys can get together and have a shot in my honor. So, yeah, no, I think you're right. So, to just kind of address the defensive question head on, I think that, sorry, let me answer this. My way.
Quick thing, can I say something one more time?
Sure.
It makes me feel like it's almost like a Jimbo Fisher, Charles Kelly thing, where, Fuller and Norvell have a respect for each other before Florida State. They come back together, and I don't know if it's a friendship thing with your loyalty, and that's the only thing. It's like, 3 coaching staffs in a row. I mean, I understand loyalty goes to an extent, but your job's going to be on that. You don't want to be in a hot seat. I'm not saying they're going to fire Norvell, nothing like that, obviously, but, you're going to put yourself in a sticky situation when you don't need to be. If you cut the tie, get a bigger name in there, and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much loyalty there is. I also think you're right, and I've talked to some other people about this. I think it's going to be very difficult for Florida State to move on from a coordinator if they finish the season at 9-3 or 10-3 or 9-3 and make a big bowl. I don't expect a New Year's Six bowl, but I think that'd be pretty tough to do. I think that optically isn't necessarily what is going to happen. But I honestly don't think, I'm not saying that we should fire Fuller right now. I'm not getting on that train. But I will say that some of the straight numbers are fairly deceiving. And in that Florida State's defense against bad teams has been really, really good, but against good teams has not been great. I think that the advanced analytics also tell you that the defense hasn't been very good. I also think that against good teams, Norvell has been really, really, really slowing things down so that there were less defensive possessions each game. In fact, I put out a video on the Double Fries YouTube, and I don't know if I can find it fast enough to get it up here in the space, but I put out a video just kind of breaking down where I thought the defense was. And yeah, I don't think that they've been as good as we really think on the field. And I don't know if they're recruiting well enough defensively to make up for that. I mean, you mentioned the DB coach. I think Woodson does some things well. I think Papuchis does some things well. I obviously love Odell, but yeah, I think that that side of the ball, the recruiting has not been necessarily where we need it to be. And I don't think the coaching is either. I don't really know. That's certainly not an easy thing for Norvell to have to try and figure out this offseason, but I think he needs to, one way or the other. So yeah, I'm trying to be as positive as I can with that, but yeah, I think you're pretty spot on there. I'll just say that. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
Sorry about that.
Man, somebody asked me something positive, bro. Let's go back to making fun of Miami. But Loski, I appreciate you, man. Have a good time this weekend.
All right, thanks, man. Go Noles.
Thanks, buddy. Go Noles. All right, let me get John on here. John's a vet. John sent me a message. Appreciate you, John. Served 5, Army vet. What's that mean? 5 deploy. Have you been? Tell me what 5 means.
5 years.
5 years. All right, appreciate you, my man. How are you doing?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm good. I think you're the first vet to come on here and speak. So we'll give you the Garnet and Gold hat. So congrats to you.
Oh, shoot. Okay, awesome.
My man. What you got going, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I the Carrier Dome is a house of horrors for Syracuse, but I think I think Bud said that. But yeah, I mean, like they can always scare people, but they're so injured. It's hard to see Florida State go in there and not walk away with a win.
Yeah, no, I'd be pretty. I don't know. This feels like one. So like Wake Forest, we went up and we were a favorite in that game, and I felt decent, but like it was going to be an absolute shootout, and you never know what's going to happen. I don't feel that way this weekend. Like I think that Florida State was a little bit overrated as far as like in Vegas when they were a touchdown favorite against Wake Forest. I expect Florida State to go up and win at Syracuse.
That's something that's kind of what I wanted to hit on. Like this negativity that I'm hearing from everybody. And like, I get it. Trust me, I've been one of the more pessimistic Nole fans there is. And this season is kind of an odd one because we are good. And it's weird because it's lost on people, I feel like, that the first string is like really, really good. I mean, like look at what they did in the LSU game. That was like the only game that we've truly been healthy up until like Georgia Tech and Miami, which are odd games because you can't really look at those stat lines because they're missing quarterbacks. But like I do think that our first string defense is actually a lot better than what people think.
I think it's at times in certain situations it is. What I worry about is the secondary, and I think there's been regression there. I think Jamie's finally playing really, really well, but our cornerbacks are the unit that scared me the most coming into this season on the entire team, and they have not been great. And then, I think at times the safeties have not been really, really good either. And so I think that's kind of, and then look at the games we've lost, right? Like, the Wake Forest and, NC State, I don't really, blame the secondary by any means. That was kind of more on the offense, but NC State, Wake Forest, Clemson, I think that the secondary has been somewhat of a liability. Now, these last couple of games, we got to play pretty hobbled teams and injured quarterbacks and stuff like that. So we've been somewhat fortunate there, but yeah, I think situationally the defense hasn't been good, but at times they've played really well. They played well against LSU. I didn't think they were great against Louisville, who is, an above average team. So I think they've had their moments.
That was when all those injuries started piling up.
For sure. You lost Verse.
I do agree with you. Like the DBs are lackluster to say the least, without a doubt. But I feel like they're a little bit sneaky better than what people think. What does terrify me though is what all this kind of stems around is Fabian Lovett. And if this dude is such a key integral part of our defense and he's gone after this year, they need to go in the portal and figure out D-tackle.
You're absolutely right. I do think they've got some good young guys on that defensive line that are going to be good, but yeah, just the fact that, and they're really young, like the depth of the defensive tackle position wasn't there as much as it probably should have been. But yeah, once you had Fabo out, then teams were essentially just double teaming Cooper and saying like, hey, well, any of your young guys will take on one-on-one, like no big deal. So I do think with a full off season, you've got some guys getting bigger, getting stronger, getting better next year. But yeah, I think that defensive end not only needs to be a focus, I think you really need to go out and get a tackle too. I like Tafasi. I think he's going to be a monster next year, and it's great that he's been able to be in the system all year. But you're right, defensive tackle is a position that Florida State needs to look at and do a good job with.
Oh yeah,
John, I appreciate you, my man. Appreciate your service. Shoot me and or Garnet and Gold a message, and we'll get you hooked up.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do, man.
Thanks for your service, man. Thank you. Look at this, Mav here on the super chat machine. Let's get
touchdown Florida State. Touchdown FSU.
Speaking of recruiting, the 2024 class looking really good so far. Could that be when recruiting actually is at expectations? yeah, so it's super early. Let's talk about the 24 class, and then I want to get Jolly in, and then we'll see if we can wrap this thing up. Appreciate those that are in here. Do me a favor. Again, Mav, thanks for the super chat. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Also, make sure you're subscribed. Really good numbers in here today on the YouTube. So, appreciate all those listening, all those watching. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already, and make sure you thumbs up the video. That helps a ton. To answer on 2024 recruiting, yeah, I mean it's really early, right? And so I think you have to kind of keep that in mind. But team rankings, let's look at them. Recruiting. We are sitting at, so we'll go to 247 because that's what popped up first. Top 4, right? But that's only with 6 commits. So there's a lot of time to go in between now and then, right? Ohio State's outside of the top 10. Florida's outside of the top 10. A&M's outside of the top 10. Oregon's outside of the top 10. You've got, to put some perspective to Florida State being number 4, you've got Iowa at number 6. You've got BYU at number 10. So I'd rather be top 4 than top 40. But it is very, very early. Florida State does have 1 5-star and 3 4-stars committed for the 2024 class, but it is very early. To answer the overall question, though, can this be a year that Florida State turns it around in 2024 as far as recruiting goes? Absolutely. They have an absolute stud in Luke Cromenhook committed at quarterback. If they're able to keep him in and keep him committed, I think that will be a huge building block and a huge piece that they build around for the 2024 class. I think that how they finish this season, and Jolly, I'll add you if you'll just come in on mute real quick, but how they finish this season is really, really big. I think that if they can get to the 9-10 wins that we think that they can get to, win tomorrow, win against Louisiana, you beat your rival at the end of the year, you're at 9 wins, and you've got a chance to go out and get a 10th in a bowl. Not that I think you need the bowl win, but I just think being able to sell the fact of 10 wins is kind of neat and a good option. They get Jordan Travis back. I was actually breaking down the roster with somebody this morning. I expect a couple of the linebackers back. I expect most of the offensive line back. Obviously, Gibbons will leave just because of being a little bit – I think he's out of eligibility. But I think you get most of your roster back. And that being the case, you can upgrade it a couple of positions. Obviously, Verse is gone. Fable is gone. But the offense could be really, really good if Jordan comes back. And if you go out and win 9 or 10 games again in 23, that 2024 class will be top 10. You can screen record this, screenshot that, whatever you want to do. If we win 9-10 games this year, win 9-10 games next year, the 2024 recruiting class will be top 10. Okay, somebody write that down now and see if we can remember it. So to answer that question, yes, yeah, the 2024 class starting out hot is really, really good. People popping over to YouTube so that they can see what it looks like on that side. The YouTube numbers are going up and up. I don't know. Maybe the spaces are dying and the YouTube is taking off. We'll see. We'll see once recruiting rolls back around. So, all right, Jolly, what's going on, my man?
Yes, thank you for having me on. I was just want to say, first of all, thank you for Lowski for what you were saying. That's what I think almost every time I watch a game. I love our defense. I do know that Fuller has often said that he hasn't opened the playbook up completely at times. But our corners, just the way they play the ball. I watch the way they actually play. And the way they attack the ball just doesn't look good. The best players on the team are the transfers and the freshmen. They seem to make the best plays on the ball. But I didn't want us to end on a negative note, but I do like the fact that you bring that up. It's not being negative, I think, bringing things like that up. You got to know your faults.
Yeah.
If you're going to be successful, you got to know where your faults lie. And my real question, though, is how close do you think Cedric Baxter Jr. is to flipping? And not just him, but I've noticed that some other recruits that FSU starting to go after pretty heavy. They're hard commits to where they're going. How many of those guys do you think we're actually going to start flipping?
I want to go back to the defense, but I do want to answer that too. So, yeah, I think you're right. On the defense, you have to like right now, Fuller's saying that he and I don't think he's wrong, but he doesn't have the athletes. Like we play man on everything. Like we never play zone because everybody's athletes are better than us, and we don't have the athletes that can play man. And do you guys think, and I'll just throw this out there as kind of a hypothetical question or rhetorical question, but are our athletes in the secondary getting better or worse? Right? Like with what's coming in the recruiting classes, with what you guys see out there, are we upgrading the talent in a way that you think we will eventually be able to play more zone and be able to force more turnovers and be better in that secondary and be better on that defense? I don't necessarily know that that's the case. And so I think Fuller's right, and he doesn't necessarily have the guys that can do it right now, but I also don't think he's recruiting well enough to have anything change. And so that's kind of my big picture worry, right? So that's kind of my thought on the defense. So, not trying to influence anybody, but usually when you ask rhetorical questions, you kind of know the answer to it. To answer on Cedric Baxter and some of the other recruits, I saw that Josh interviewed the On3 Texas guy, and it seems like he's still in pretty good communication with Texas. He's not like ignoring their calls or anything, but I do think that Florida State has a little bit of a leg up in some situations, and I think that mostly being that he was a commit here before, and he's 3.5 hours away from Florida State as opposed to how many miles he is from Texas, right? 3 or 4 states away. And so I think that does help Florida State out a lot. I think that Texas is going to be able to offer him a bigger NIL bag than Florida State is if we're just keeping it a buck. But I do think that there's a chance he gives kind of a hometown discount to come and play here. As far as a percent chance, I'd probably put it at like 25-30 right now. I'll up that if he shows up at that Florida State game at the end of the year. And then I'll up it again if he takes another visit to the Noles in mid to late December, right? If Florida State was able to get him on campus the last weekend of the year, well, the second to last weekend of the year, the weekend before early signing day, I think they'd have I'd probably put it over 50%, right? If they get him for the Florida State game at the end of the year in a couple of weeks, I think that, I'm probably up closer to like 40%, right? And then, so if they get him on campus 2 more times before the signing day, then I've got him flipping, right? If they don't, kind of follow the visits, kind of put 2 and 2 together and say that he's probably going to stick around Texas. That's kind of how I see or feel that one going down. I don't know if there was another recruiting question in there, Jolly, or not, but I forgot if there was.
No, pretty much. Cedric Baxter is the only big one that I know of is a possible flip. I agree with your percentage. It's not, something that's a 50-50 shot for us right now, but, it's something that we could be continuing to work on. But as far as recruiting, I was also just asking, what other players have you heard of? I know I've looked at a couple where we're going after some other people's commits. Which ones do you think maybe that no one's really talking about? Do you think we could maybe have shots at, even if it's a low percentage?
Yeah, I don't have anything like right off the top of my head. Like, I could certainly kind of like do a little bit more digging and try and see if there's anything that's, kind of out there. I'm trying to think. That question caught me off. So the big ones that I think about that, Florida State does still kind of have a chance with, I think that, Williams down there at Miami is a big one. I think Brock Glenn is one that I think that they're not closing the door on just yet. As far as under the radar, I think they've been pretty vocal with like the guys that they're going after. I think what's his name? I think the door is not completely closed on Jaylen Brown, though that's to me, like a 5% chance. Oh, here's a name. Here's maybe an under the radar name. I know that there's some interest in Raymond Cottrell, currently committed to Georgia. I've heard some smoke about that not being super solid and potentially kind of maybe running in and getting that one. Kid out of Milton, Florida. He plays with Emory Williams there in Milton. And so I think that, getting Emory could maybe open the door there. I'm trying to look at like who else FSU has offered. I don't think that they've closed the door on DJ Chester, though I think that that's kind of a low percentage one at this point. If they can get him back on campus in December, I think that would be really good. But I think DJ Chester is one that they're going to keep working on. Sorry, I'm just kind of like looking through offers. I think the 2 Kentucky defensive backs that left are potentials. I don't think that those are like super solid, but what were the I'm trying to think of the names. Once they leave, Avery Stewart, I don't know if the door is all the way closed. England, but you asked for low percentage stuff. Like I'm talking, some of these are like 5-10%, right? Like I don't think that, and I think England's probably a little bit higher percentage. But those guys are potential. So anyway, I'm not predicting the Florida State flips any of those guys. You just asked me who my low percentage ones that we don't be going to all the message boards saying TJ said we're flipping all these guys back. But those are kind of the guys that I think that Florida State's still in it for, but we'll see how the next, few weeks go, how things kind of pan out. So there's a bunch of names for you. Hopefully that makes all the message boards and you guys say that I'm flipping everybody. Jolly, I appreciate you, my man.
Helped. No, it definitely helped. Thank you for having me on. And once again, go Noles.
Appreciate it, man. Go Noles. Let's get a win tomorrow. All right. I think we have one more here. This looks like a burner, so always have a quick finger on this one. But D-Low 0201, how's it going? D-Low, you're on mute.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
How you doing?
Good. I have a question about Caden Lyles. He got hurt his senior year. In the NCAA, they do give grants for people who usually get hurt their senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be big if we do get him, if they do grant him another year. I think that'll be big for the offensive line, just because of his experience at Wisconsin. So I just wanted to ask you, what's your take on that?
That's a great question. Thank you for jumping on and jumping in. So I've spoken with a couple of people about Caden Lyles. I've actually also spoken with Caden about this. So I'll try and be, I think that if he really wanted to come back, they would make a way for him to come back. I think it's really kind of the ball is in his court. The last couple of years have ended with injury for him. He's getting, he's getting older. Redshirt senior plus the COVID year, like he's played a lot, right? Like he's played a lot of football and gotten hurt the last couple of years. And so I think it's really on him if he wants to kind of go. Now, I'm not saying that he would come back and get hurt again, but does he want to come back and go through all of that again? Does he want to potentially, you know how your body is never really the same coming off of an injury, but then when you kind of come off 3 season-ending injuries, like it really is never the same. And so it's really, I think if he wanted to come back, I think he would apply for a waiver, and I think Florida State would have a spot for him. I think it's really up to him whether or not that's the route he wants to take, or if he wants to kind of move into a different role, still within the program. I'm trying to be somewhat careful with what. Yeah, so if he wanted to kind of move, maybe stay around the program, but not being in kind of a playing role. I think it was big that he got hurt in fall camp, and then he did stay around, right? He did kind of continue to work and try and help the team as much as he could. So, read into that what you will. I don't know if he comes back and plays for FSU next year. I think if he wants to, he'll have an opportunity, but I think that, he may stick around the program one way or the other.
All right, man. That's really only the question I could think of, man. Go Noles, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. All right, if you shot me a comment on YouTube, you need to shoot me an email. If you're a vet, shoot me an email, tj@doublefriesnoslaw.com. I want to get you a Gramco hookup, some gummies, if you are interested in them. Do me a favor. If you watched on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. We had the best live viewers I've ever had on a live video in here today on the YouTube. So really, really appreciate that. If you're here on the Spaces, man, thank you again for hanging out. We have a good time with these. Had good numbers again. We were, when we were losing games every week, these numbers got down to like 50 a space, but getting back up over like 175, I think at one point I saw is pretty dope. So shout out to you guys. We'll be back tomorrow night. Let's do another live reaction show tomorrow night. Hopefully the Noles win, so it's not depressing. But thank you to Garnet and Gold. Again, Spaces 15 there. Gramco TJ25. Appreciate them and their support. You guys support them. They give back to FSU, its athletes, NIL, all the things. and then also our vets as well. So support them. Shout out my guy Paul Aloise with Renegade Sports Entertainment. And we will see you guys again soon. Again, like, subscribe, all those things. Go Noles. Hey, again, if you're on YouTube here, we've done some really good stuff here the last couple of days on YouTube. If you're new to the channel or if you've not seen anything, I broke down the Deuce Span thing yesterday. That video has done really, really well. Put out a video on Tuesday with why that Florida State's going to continue to kill Miami year after year after year. Talked about the rankings on Sunday. So we've done some really good content here on YouTube. If you need some more FSU content over the next few hours to get you through your workday or get you to the weekend, please hit the subscribe button and go troll through some of the videos here on the YouTube and check them out. Thank you guys for hanging out. Make sure you're subscribed. Go Noles.